Hello and welcome to the demo video for the Global Portfolio Tracker. This one is a portfolio tracker. So it's global because you can set it to your own currency and you can use other currencies. And it's completely offline. So there's a standalone spreadsheet. There are obviously links between tabs on the spreadsheet, but there's no external links to any prices or share prices or stock prices or anything online or any KPIs or anything like that. It's completely freestanding, which means that you actually need to fill the information in. But I've kept it as simple as possible so that it's relatively easy to do that and it alerts you to various things. I will show you how it works. I'll go through it all and explain what's going on. The first sheet is the intro and setup tab. The intro and setup tab, you can enter your default currency. You don't have, there's no drop down list or anything because you can literally enter what you want as long as it's a three letter code. So all the currencies have three-letter codes. Enter the three-letter code of the currency that you wish to have as your default. What that means is obviously being in the UK and myself, I'd set that to Great British Pounds. Um, the number of days between the value checks alert, you can enter a value here. So that can be 14, that can 2 weeks, 7 for every week, 1 for every day, 30 every month, whatever the case might be. So if you say, for example, you want to do a check every 30 days, what that means is it'll let you go 30 days and it'll flag up on the dashboard saying, please do a balance check. That doesn't mean you can only do a balance check that time. It just means that it flags up to tell you to do a balance check at that time. You can actually do a balance check whenever you want to. So you can do balance checks in between that balance check date if you wish. I'll come back to the clear old data in a few minutes. You can put in some asset classes and account types. You can adjust these. I would suggest getting the sheet up to date. These collect values you can change at any stage if you find you're doing it more often, but I would start with a currency code, asset classes, and account types, and I would kind of leave that as it is. Yes, you can add some more on when you go along, but if you actually if you remove one, then you're gonna have to go through and clear out all the data that then has been selected for that particular asset class. So I would be hesitant to do that because it'll mess up your data. You just have to go and clean everything up afterwards. Um, Also, you'll see that there's some colors down here. That just shows what color they will show on the graph. So if, for example, you wanted cash to be pink, you can put it in here. It doesn't really matter about the order. It will reorder everything alphabetically for your drop-down lists anyway. So you can put in up to 15 asset classes and you can put in up to 15 account types so that you can then select those later on to categorize and to filter reporting and that kind of thing. So once you've got that set up, this time we're going to start from the right and move our way left. So we've got the reporting here on the left-hand side, which is what you'll probably want to see more often. But these three red tabs, these are the ones where you actually list all the investments, keep track of all the transactions, and do the balance checks. Now, what I mean by transactions is every time you were to pay money in or draw money out, or in fact reinvest money, like if you get dividends or shares or anything within that, within an investment, you want to reinvest it again, you do that in the transactions as well. And then the balance checks is what you do each every 14 days when it asks you to. So let's start with the investments. They all look slightly more confusing, but they're relatively straightforward. All the red headers is data that you enter. The gray headers are optional, and the green headers are all formulated, so you don't have to worry about those. So what you can do here is enter the investment name. So I've entered some already. You can enter the investment name. All that I ask here is that you don't have any duplicates. It will flag up if you do. And then select the asset class, and this is a drop-down list that comes from your intro and setup. Select the account type, again, the drop-down list from your intro and setup. Closed, you don't use the close column until you actually want to close something down. And what that means is when you actually select this, then what it does is it flags up on all the other sheets. So at the end of this video, I'm actually going to show you how to clear out old data in case the spreadsheet fills up, because each of these tabs have got a limited number of rows. So you may fill one up quicker than the others, and you might want to clear some data. So there's two ways to clear the data out, and I'll show you how to do that at the end of the video. So if that's what you're looking for, go to the end and have a look. But you only use this when you actually want to close down an investment so that you're no longer tracking it, no longer interested in it, don't have it anymore. Then tick the box and it'll help you to remove things with other sheets. Shares and coins and units. What this column means is some investments. So, for example, you may have an investment where you're actually just investing 5 grand. There's no actual units or anything to be purchased. You're just investing it, and the rate goes up or the rate comes down, and you make more or less money. In which case, you don't check this box. This is asking if there are any shares or coins or something that you're actually purchasing. So, for example, if you're going to go and buy 20 shares and then later on you're going to go and buy 30 shares and then you're going to buy 50 shares, and you actually want to know later on how that price per share is actually calculated. So what value you've got and how many shares you've got and what's the rate per share. Is the rate per share going up? Is the rate per share coming down? Then tick the shares or unit column, because then what it's going to do is it's going to ask you later on whenever you do a transaction, how many shares have you bought or sold? So it's going to track your shares as well. But if you shares or coins or any other kind of unit involved in the investment. If it's just a straightforward financial investment, you don't have any of those, then don't tick that box and it won't ask you for them. Currency, not Great British Pound. So yours will change whatever your home currency is here. It'll say if not that. So if it is in your default currency, then just leave it blank. If it's not in your default currency, you can put another currency code in. And then what that will do is let me actually clear this over here. What that will do if you don't have another currency is if you don't have another currency, it'll just assume everything's in the Great British Pounds. If you do, it'll ask you for both currency values or one currency value and the exchange rate so that it can calculate the other currency. So this is if you've got something and you actually want to track both currencies, you can do so. If you don't want to track both currencies, leave it blank and just put your default currency in each time, and that's it. It'll only track that. The notes, these are optional. Those are for you. You can just put notes next to each of these ones. Sorter column, I'll show you how that works later on when we remove old data. But this will then give you the percentage of your portfolio, the most recent number of units, most recent value here in the US dollars, most recent value as your standard value, etc. And this will track and monitor transactions and balance checks and things to keep you up to date with the most recent value, so you can see here how your portfolio breaks down already. Second of all, if you've got other currencies, you can come here and you can select up to 5 of them. So because I've got one, I've got the US dollars, you can select them. If you had more, you could select up to 5 just to view at the top so you can see a total of how much you have in each of those currencies. And then this shows your total in your standard currency. So this is all you do when you want to add a new investment. You come and add them on here. I'll show you what to do if you want to remove them later on at the clearing stage. Then you move across to transactions. And each transaction, so if money goes in, money goes out, and this includes your initial investment. So when you open up an investment, it's going to be a nil balance. Your first investment that you put in, you have to come and put that in at least. And then whenever you make an adjustment, so you can select your investment from here, which comes from your investments tab. You can notice these aren't in alphabetical order. If I went to investments, you can sort them here alphabetically, and then they'll come out in the same order. So you can do a transaction date, usually today when you're doing it, but you may have been yesterday, the day before. When I've got dates in drop-down lists, I do those just so that it makes it easier to find today's date because it's at the top of the list and it works back 7 days. You don't have to use these dates. You can type over that date and put in any date that the transaction took place. And then just select if it's purchased, plus or sold, minus. If it's purchased, it means it's going to add this value to your portfolio. If it's sold, it's going to subtract it from your portfolio. And then you tick this box only if it's reinvested. So if you get shares paid out, for example, and you want to reinvest them in, then just tick the reinvestment box because that just tracks that it is reinvestment. It's not actually coming from your pocket. But if you don't check this box, then what that means is it's money that you've come from your pocket into your investment. If you've got a number of units within the selected investment, the cell will turn yellow and ask you how many units are involved in this transaction. So this isn't the overall, this is just what's happening in the transaction. And if you are selling, don't put in -20, just put in 20. The spreadsheet will check wherever you put sold and it'll adjust the units and currency values according to, it'll negative it if it's negative. So put into everything as positive values. So this is just the number of shares changing hands if they're involved. If they're not, it won't turn yellow. And it'll ask you for the currency value. If there's no alternate currency, it'll tell you here that there's exchange rate required, none, and then it'll just ask you for the currency in your local currency. If there is one, so like for here, then what it'll do is it'll ask you for one of these three, two of these three to be filled in. So you can either fill in the currency in pounds and the currency, the custom currency, in this case in US dollars, or you can fill in the currency in pounds and the exchange rate, or you can fill in the custom currency and the exchange rate. So you only need to fill in two of these three. Three of them will turn yellow, but as soon as you filled in two and it's got the information at once, the yellow will disappear. So you only have to enter two of these three, whichever. Sometimes you may have something that's in your local currency and gives you the exchange rate. Sometimes you may have one that gives you the two currencies. Sometimes you may have one that gives you the custom currency and the exchange rate and doesn't actually give you it in your currency, in which case you then can calculate that. So you just fill in two of those three when asked. The notes, those are optional for you. The starting value, ignore that. I'll show you what that means in the sorter. So here it tells you this is the exchange rate required. It gives you the exchange rate it's calculated. It gives you the transaction value in the custom currency and in your local currency, just so you can double check and see that you've got everything and all of that stuff. Ignore for now. I'll show you how that works. So that's how you do transactions. Balance checks, even simpler. There's some things in here. What will happen is when we scroll on the bottom of the balance checks is you'll see these will appear in green. You don't have to act on these. All this does is because it's a new day and I haven't taken the balance check for Vanguard S&P 500 on the 1st of June 2026 yet. It gives me that option, but I don't have to take action. I'll show you the dashboard later on, but when you come to the dashboard, you'll see a note underneath here, which will flag up somewhere underneath here, which will say, please run a balance check, because that means you've gone 14 days without doing one and it flags up. So then what you do whenever it asks you to run a balance check is you simply come to the sheet, you copy the green section. Now this is very important. Don't use normal paste. That will paste the formatting and the formulas and everything and break your spreadsheet. You want to use paste values. So right click, paste values. When you do that, you essentially paste today's date and all the different investments that you've got currently active. And then it'll ask you for these three lots of information. So if only in your local currency, it'll only ask you for your local currency. If in another currency, it'll ask you to fill in two of these three. And you just complete those once you've pasted these values in here. So if I were to go and paste those values in here, if you give it a minute, you can see these ones all want more than one item, and these ones here just want the Great British Pounds value. So if you fill in those until that yellow disappears, now you've got your information up to date. I'm not going to do that now, so I'm just going to clear this back out again. So once you've done that and you fill the information like before, either two or three lots of information, that's your balance check done. This will disappear. And then the next day, when you get to the 2nd of June, these will turn green again as options. So you don't want to be doing a balance check more than once in a day. The other thing just to bear in mind, the balance check you can see at the top here assumes that you've already done any transactions for the day. So if you did the balance check in the morning and did a transaction for the same day in the afternoon, the balance check will assume that you haven't done the transaction yet and it will correct itself basically on the next transaction. So just bear that in mind. I would advise doing any transactions for the day before doing your balance check. Do the balance check afterwards. That will keep your spreadsheet up to date. Spreadsheet automatically assumes that any transactions and balance checks on the same day will assume that the balance check was done after the transaction. And that's it. That's what you fill in. That's all you need to fill in, and that's what you keep up to date. The rest of the tabs are all reporting tabs. Let's start with the dashboard. As I said, there's some alerts and warnings up here, which will give you a text, tell you what to do. These ones at the top here are for the individual tabs. So for example, balance check, let's go to the balance check and let's do that copy and paste values, but let's stop there. Because these cells are now yellow, if I go to the dashboard, you can see their balance checks 22 alerts. It gives me the 22 yellow alerts. So it'll tell you if there's any data that's on here that's incorrect or invalid. and then you can just go to the respective tab and sort out what you need to do and come back again, and that alert should disappear. This graph here gives you an overview. This will expand and contract to a degree. It won't go too far because these bars get a bit narrow if you're going back, more than 220 different checks. But you can basically use some filters. So if I came here and said I just want the ones that are labeled as cash, it adjusts it and shows me the investments only that have got the cash. If you scroll down, it first gives you back to the intro, you've got the asset classes and the account types. If you go to the dashboard, it gives me the asset classes first. And then here you can see it moves straight into the account type. So I can select one or the other. So you can filter by any one of those. Blank gives you all of your investments. You can put an earliest date or a latest date to filter between the dates, so you can see what your investments were between those two dates if you want to. And you can also include reinvestments and include investments. So if I say I want to exclude investments, you can see the blue disappears and it just shows me the amber here, the reinvestments, and the green, which is essentially gain balance. And if I want to take out the reinvestments, I can take them out and it just shows me the gain balance, each of those checks. So these checks will be whenever you've done a check. So if you've done checks daily, you'll have daily figures here. If you've done checks monthly, you'll have monthly figures here, etc. So these just follow your checks. And you can include in this filter what to include and what to exclude and filter, and this whole graph will adjust accordingly. This is your filter total, and that's your overall balance. Your investment breakdown, there's no balance, there's no filter here, but this just gives you a breakdown by asset class, breakdown by account type, breakdown by currency, and breakdown by source. The source meaning invested, reinvested, invest growth, investment loss. So this updates automatically. It will only include 14 currencies and then all others. So if you do have 20 different currencies invested, you're going to see the top 14 at any stage, and then the rest kind of combined as all others. So this is a dashboard of an investment breakdown of your entire portfolio, and you can have a look and see, where your funds are, etc. But there's no filters on this one. All right, so this is the individual investment report. You can come and select any individual investment that you want. So if I select this Vanguard, you can see it populates, gives me the asset class, account type, alternate currency, etc. This is the compound annual growth rate that it calculates. If it's less than a year, it gives you a different figure. It'll tell you what it is there. But this essentially shows you all the different transactions that you've got, all the different balance checks, and how the investment was broken down. It gives you the overall gain, so you don't have to do the filter like you did on the dashboard. It will calculate that gain for you and show you that separately. This is overall. This is just the gain or loss. These two are blank because the are no alternate currency, and here at the bottom you can see the number of units held over the period of time. So this would give you the number of units, the average exchange rate. These will give you the values for the alternate currency, but there isn't any, so that's blank. If you were to select one that did have an alternate currency, there we go. Now it shows your growth by the US dollars, it gives you a breakdown. There was a bit of a loss there. You can see the gain and all the rest of it. So exchange rates, number of units held, etc. So you can see the breakdown of each and every different investment just by selecting it. It shows you the breakdown. Plus, if you go to, I'll do a view page break, you can see I've broken it up nicely on two different pages. So you can save to PDF. Before you save to PDF, just do a view page break preview. You might have to drag these borders a little bit because this is based on your printer, but then it prints it to a nice 3-page PDF. If you save as a PDF or either save as a PDF or print to PDF. So those are the three reports: your dashboard report, your investment breakdown, your individual investment report, where you can select any one of them to view. The last two tabs, the blue ones, are actually to be used on your mobile phone. So this is a filter one, and if you do open this on your mobile phone, you can see I've hidden the grid line references, so it should fit nicely onto the width of your phone. This screen should in fact fit nicely onto a single screen. You can select up to 5 investments to include. These are the filters. If all of these are blank, it includes everything. You can select up to 5 investments to include. You can select up to 3 asset classes to include. You can select up to 3 account types to include. You can have a date, earliest date, latest date, and you can select a single alternate currency. So what it does if you select US dollars, for example, is it only shows you the accounts that you've got in US dollars, because then it can give you more reporting on the US dollar element of it because it's only including accounts with the US dollars. If you leave this blank, it will be blank. And if you select your local currency, which is an option there, then it'll only select items that aren't in foreign currencies that are only in your local currency. What it does here is it actually tells you how many are included in the filter. So these filters do stack. So if you select an investment, you select an asset class, you select an account type, for example, it really narrows it down to exactly what you want to do, and they'll stack one on top of the other. So this will show you how many investments are included and how many balance checks are included in your report. So the more you add in, so for example, when I go to US dollars, you can see now it's only 5 investments that are included. If I went to US dollars in cash, there's 0 investments that pass both of those filters, so it doesn't want me to do that. I can't remember. There we go. Crypto US dollars. It goes, well, you got 2 investments, 16 balance checks. So you can keep an eye on that. And as I said, if you clear all the filters, it includes your entire investment portfolio. And then once you're ready, you can click on this green button here as far on the phone. On the phone, if you click on that button, it'll take your hyperlink across to your filtered report. And the filtered report will let you, there's your compound annual growth rate. These graphs are all familiar. Your breakdown by asset class, breakdown by account type, breakdown by currency, breakdown by source. Your last 30 balance checks, if there aren't 30, it'll adjust, but it'll go up to 30 balance checks in pounds, balance gain or loss. If there was an alternate currency, you'd see that as well, gain and loss, and you'd see your the unit. This wasn't the unit, so this was the exchange rates, I think, and it'll show you all those different reports based on based on the based on the filter. So you can actually go and filter for one report, one particular investment. You can see that. So this whole report will change. So these 2 blue tabs. You don't necessarily have to use a similar information as showing on the other sheets, but it's just very useful on the mobile phone. It fits nicely. So if you are out and about and you've done all the data updates and you just want to go through and filter and see some investments while you're on the go, you can check these 2 out on your mobile phone, and I've optimized them to work on the mobile phone. So now we get the last thing, which is clearing out old data. There's 2 instances where you'd probably want to clear out old data. Basically, if you fill up the spreadsheet, number one, or if you've got a whole bunch of investments that you've actually no longer using. So because I need to clear this anyway for the trial versions, let's just say, for example, you did a huge cleanup and you actually got rid of all your investments other than the first 2. If I then go and select that, I select the little checkbox in all the ones that I want to remove. Now, just bear in mind, I just want to show you this example. Don't grab this cell and drag it down here, because that's the same as copying and paste. If I want to do all of these, and also don't copy and paste normal. If I just copy what I've got there, scroll down, say paste values, always paste values, then it's basically giving me all of these to say to clear. So now what it does on the rest of the spreadsheet is it actually, if I now go to the transactions, for example, it shows me which ones I need to clear out because they're all grayed out. So what I do then to get to this result quickly is I actually come and select these crosses here. Now, before we do that, if we wanted to clear out some information, let me actually show you how to do that first. The reason being is because it's slightly different. If we were filled up and we didn't actually have any, and we were still using all of these investments, but we'd filled up one of the other tabs, either transactions or balance checks, and we wanted to clear out some data. If you came back here and I said to you, I want to clear out everything up until the beginning of 2026. So if I put in the 31st of December, in fact, let's put 1st of January 2026. 1st of January 2026. That's the first date I want on the spreadsheet. I click enter. What that then does is if I go back now to the transactions first and foremost, it says consolidate the old, where is it? Consolidate the old data. So you could write the transactions tab. So if I go to the right here, this is the consolidate old data. I'm going to go to the bottom of my list and it gives me this green block. Now this green block is actually hidden data that I need. So what this does is it takes all the above data that's before the date that I've entered and it gives me a summary of what's going on. So I just simply copy that. I come here and I say right click paste values. And that will paste in kind of an opening balance as of the 1st of January 2026 for all these different portfolios. But that's only half the job done. The other half is to clear out all the other stuff. Now, because it's in date order, it's all the older stuff. In which case, what I can do is I can come here, make sure I line up to the last cross, the last X, right click, clear contents. Once I've cleared that contents, resort by date, and boom, you've cleared out all of your transactions. You'll do the same thing on the balance check. If you come up to the top of the balance check, let's have a look at the top. On the remove column, it goes, you removes all the way up to here. So if we stay on this row, go under the red and gray headers and go right up to the top of the list. And we will right click, clear contents. We can clear all of those out, sort by date order. And now we've cleared out some space so that we can move forward. So I'm just going to go back and get rid of those transactions that we added. So that's how you clear it when you're using the, sorry, I need to clear these ones out as well. That's how you clear it when you are using the date to archive old data. But I'm not going to use the date, so I'm just going to go to the intro and setup and remove that date. I'm going to show you the other way of doing it. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is when you actually get to your investments, as we said, and you want to remove all of them. So I'm going to remove all of these except for the first two. Base value. So I want to clear that. But before I clear this out, I want to go to the other tab. So first of all, transaction, everything in gray needs to be cleared out. So what do? I go to this clear column, and this time they're not in order. So we have to clear 1 row, 2 rows, 5 rows, whatever it is. So all you do here is you simply go down to the bottom, say right click, copy, and you come into the sorter column and you say right click, paste values. Now, when you paste values, you can now sort. So if I go and sort Z to A, what that does is this is just a temporary column and it brings all these gray ones to the top. So I can then go and just simply clear out all of these gray ones, clear contents, sort by date, oldest to newest. It brings them all to the top and I've cleared out the transactions. I can then go and do the balance check as well. But you see again, it's all in a bit of a mixed match type of order because it's not all in date order, it's based on the transactions. So I'm going to go down, 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 edit, copy, and I'm going to say right click, paste values. And then I can use the sorter column, which again is just a temporary sorter column Z to A. If you use the sorter column for anything else and there's data left in there, you can just clear it once you've sorted. And then I can clear those ones out. Clear contents. Again, sort by date, oldest to newest. Bring them all up to the top. There we go. Now we've got a new list of all of the two investments that we've got left. Then you can go back to investment tab. Now you could sort by this column if they weren't all together, but because they're all together, I can just simply come here and I can say right click, clear contents, and those are out. And now it's all up to date again. You've cleared out what you need to clear out. So using those remove columns essentially help you just to, if you put them in the sorter, sort by that column. It just helps you to clear out any old data, either like what I've done where I'm just clearing out by investment, or you could have used the date and put them in and cleared out all the stuff that was old in that. But just follow that exact process. The main thing to watch out for is when you're doing your backdated stuff, once you've done the copy and paste values transactions from this section at the right here, Once you've done that, make sure you go and actually clear out the old ones, because while that's in, before you've cleared out the old ones, all your balances are going to be incorrect because you're going to have duplicate data. Clear out the old ones, then come and clear out the balance checks, and then you're good to go. So yeah, I hope that that makes sense. I hope that that's relatively easy to use. I've made it as simple as possible while still giving you the flexibility of clearing out all data and giving you the flexibility of adding your own investments and monitoring all the balances. So yeah, I really hope that this helps you. If it does, all the best with your spreadsheet. Thank you very much and goodbye.